Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Telecoms Academy webinar, Key Challenges and Opportunities in 2017. My name is Mark Newman, and I'm a Senior Trainer and Strategist within the Telecoms Academy. I know a number of you on the call are people who have been on Telecoms Academy course. What you're probably not familiar with is a new slide template. So we were very red, and now we're very blue. So taking some while to getting used to. So I'm going to be speaking to you for about 20-25 minutes. We'll leave some time for questions at the end. So if you do have any questions, then please leave them in the chat box, and I will talk you through the questions towards the end. So no further ado, we shall start. So I have a very simple agenda. A brief look back at 2016. Then I have 5 bullet points: simplifying the business, front end and back end, pathway towards 5G, the retail experience, platforms, and digital transformation. As I say, that's only a selection of some of the big issues for telcos in 2017, but I think you'll agree they're fairly high up on most people's list. So if we look at 2016 in review, so it's been a challenging year for most. The combined effects of competition, regulation, the continued disruption of the messaging business means that in many markets, telco revenues are flat and in some cases stagnating. And that is looking across the whole, the fixed and the mobile spectrum. And Telecoms Academy works very closely with Ovum, which is another Informa business, which has some forecasts 2021. And Ovum forecast suggests it's going to be pretty challenging in the next few years as well. So maybe plus 1-2%, minus 1-2% in terms of revenue growth. It will vary region by region. Interestingly, in Europe, the region where I'm based, 2016 was actually a reasonable year in terms of revenues propelled by LTE, but the share prices went backwards in 2016. So we're kind of back where we were a year or so ago. Looking at some of the specific industry-centric trends in 2016, it's been a year of consolidation and a shift towards triple play and multi-play. And if you speak to most CEOs of most operators, it's been all about the shift from fixed and mobile to fixed, mobile, and TV. I think it's interesting if you look in the US, we've clearly seen the acquisition of DirecTV by AT&T. And I think TV is evolving from being a value-added service for the telcos to being a core telco service. And the challenge I think we all have in telecoms is that differentiation is extremely difficult, and TV is proving a good way for telcos to differentiate themselves. Again, another trend in 2016, this shift into cloudifying the network, and we've all been thinking about this shift into the cloud, into SDN and NFV, and some of the large operator groups, and I will name here AT&T, Verizon, Deutsche Telekom, Orange, Vodafone, Singtel, China Mobile. All these large operator groups have developed roadmaps for virtualizing their networks using SDN and NFV. Some of the thinking has evolved in 2016, but I think what I will say is that we are becoming aware of the complexity of shifting to SDN and NFV. It's a rapidly evolving technology landscape, and I think it's a massive undertaking to shift from where we are today to a virtualized environment. And I think we're seeing more of a piecemeal, pragmatic approach towards SDN and NFV, maybe picking off some of the new services such as Volte, which can be supported by cloud-based systems, and then a gentle transition into the cloud. And the last point I'll make about 2016 is that it was a great year for LTE. LTE has been the fastest growing technology in the history of telecoms. LTE has been deployed in, as you'll see from this map, in most countries around the world. I think we've all been extremely pleased with the quality of the network, the speed it delivers. In terms of the device ecosystem, we're now seeing devices coming down to way beyond $100, and we see LTE growing apace in emerging markets in 2017. So looking ahead to 2017, and what are some of the key challenges and opportunities? And we talk a lot in telecoms about legacy IT. A number of operators have moved towards addressing the challenge of legacy IT. And I think we need to stand back for a minute and think about this more holistically and understand the reasons why we have legacy IT, and acknowledge that it's not just a problem with the back end. It's not just an IT problem. The challenge that we have with IT is that it reflects the status of a telecoms operator business. If we think over a period of 20, 30 years, how many new generations of technology we as operators have launched, how many new price plans have been offered, the fact that operators find it difficult to discontinue old price plans. There's always concern that if you take away the price plan someone signed up to 10 years ago, you might lose them as a customer. So the end result is that you accumulate systems, you accumulate boxes. Every new box needs to function with an old box. So the role of systems integrators becomes more and more important. Every time you do something new, it has to talk with the old. There's multiple versions of the truth in the customer records. And a number of operators now realizing that this can't go on. When we think about the IT within a telco, we need to have a new approach to IT to ensure that we're not trapped in this legacy. Now, I think it's interesting to, when we start thinking about the front end of the telco business, to compare telecoms operators with some of the digital media firms. And here I've just chosen Netflix as an example. And how many price plans does Netflix have? Well, it has 2 or 3 price plans. It's an incredibly simple proposition for the end user. And Netflix's IT spend goes into customer experience rather than just keeping the cogs moving, rather than just business as usual. So I think as we think as telcos about our future operating model, we have to move towards simplifying the front end, reducing the number of products and services we offer so we can focus more on customer experience. And there are a handful of telcos doing this around the world today. And I think we're going to see in 2017, we're going to see more operators taking the brave approach and deciding to discontinue old services and accepting there might be some short-term attrition, but realizing that in the medium to long term, it's something that has to be done to simplify the operating business. So trend number 2, and this is right into the front end. So I've called this Supercharging the Retail Store Experience. And we at Telecoms Academy believe there's a change taking place in how consumers shop for their telecom services and devices, and operators' realization that we need to transition from being dealers, from having shops, to providing customer experience. And so there's a number of operators who have now launched some flagship stores, typically in city centres. And these shops are more like experience centres than they are stores. And we've had some major learnings from this. Clearly, Apple was the first to change retail experience. There's another screenshot here from a Google store. The other screenshots you have are a Japanese operator called SoftBank. And SoftBank has started to produce and manufacture its own robot. This is a robot called Pepper. And Pepper can be sold in a consumer market or in an enterprise market. And these Pepper robots are used in SoftBank stores both to welcome customers and just to give you a better experience as a consumer in terms of consuming, seeing, experiencing something new. The other example I have here is with Orange and Orange Money. Orange is one of the operators which has a strong belief in the potential of mobile payments, financial services. And what I think is particularly interesting in Europe now is that Orange is moving into retail banking. So I think the view here from Orange is that when we think about our retail exposure, What else can we use that retail presence for? And retail banking is quite interesting. So Orange Bank is a pure digital bank, but Orange will use its retail stores in order to market and in order to provide some expertise from customers who are looking at moving to an Orange banking service. I think where retail is particularly interesting is as we move into the realm of the Internet of Things and wearable devices. And I think what IoT gives operators is the opportunity to start using their retail stores to introduce more concepts around smart homes, smart living, wearable devices. It gives operators a chance to give people the opportunity to experience new services such as augmented reality and virtual reality. So I know there's concern generally in the telecoms industry from operators about losing that relationship with the end user. There's also concern about the customer experience that we're offering to the end user. And I think by using our shops, using our stores in order to build that customer experience, or to change the perception in the mind of consumer about what a mobile operator is, what a telecoms operator is, we have a chance to gently move and evolve the customer experience and the perception of the service provider, and to make the service provider more relevant in people's digital lives. The third trend I have here is with 5G, and if we look back 2 years ago, there really wasn't a huge amount of discussion in the industry about 5G. 2016 really marked the year in which industry thoughts and discussions around 5G became mainstream. And I mean, in terms of the timing of 5G, we're not going to have a fully standardized 5G solution until 2020. That's when the first standardized 5G services will launch. We are going to see some pre-standardized 5G in wireless local loop scenarios, particularly in North America, and for some of the early commercial trials in countries such as Japan and Korea. I think what we are now all accepting when we think about 5G is that it's different from previous G, and it's different in a number of respects. So it's different in the first respect because LTE 4G is part of the 5G family. There is a belief and acceptance that 5G will coexist with LTE for a period of 10, 20 years. It's not going to be like previous Gs where after maybe 5 years, 7, 9, 10 years, the new G replaced the previous G. 5G is very different because a lot of the benefits, a lot of the functionality around 5G can first be deployed within 4G. So it's a coexistence, and LTE is part of the 5G family. And I think that when we look at the evolution of LTE into LTE Advanced Pro, we can see some of the benefits in terms of latency, capacity. Certainly when we think about IoT with NB-IoT, that can be realized through 4G before we get to 5G. There's another image I have on in this slide, which is a survey done by Ericsson, one of the large vendors, asking operators how far evolved they were in their thinking around 5G. And if we believe this survey, I think it's surveyed about 30 operators, it would suggest that operators are at a reasonable stage of thinking in terms of what 5G might be. Now, our own view of this is that while we have seen a number of use cases being discussed around 5G, typically in a B2B market, that's a very, very long way from understanding what the business model is around the use cases. So where we need to move to is from use case to business model. The other point that I would make here is that when we think about precisely how a 5G network will be built, it's different again. When we think about 2G, 3G, 4G, it's been a question of providing coverage in cities, in urban areas, suburban areas, along the major roads. The target market is It's people, it's consumers. When we think about 5G, there'll be an element of providing additional capacity in urban areas. But a lot of the use cases are in the B2B market, and we're almost looking at a private network paradigm. So I think that whole issue on how we build 5G networks, there's still a lot of work to be done over the next couple of years. Another one of the discussions around 5G is around this concept of network slicing. This idea that by using some of the benefits of virtualization, operators can create network slices to better serve different market segments. So, to give you an example of this, there might be some target markets which have a requirement for very heavy bandwidth usage, fast speeds, high latency. That's one use case. Another use case might be low speeds, low latency. So, given that when we look at SDN-NFV and SDN-NFV becoming part of the 5G family, it will be possible for an operator to configure its network in order to make resources available for different use cases, for different sets of users. And that constitutes a network slice. Lots of work to be done, but I think the concepts are very interesting. And effectively what that does is it means an operator can use and deploy its resources more effectively than has been the case in the past. So looking at some of the 5G applications, these are some of the examples that I've certainly seen and heard about. And I was at an event recently where there's discussion around using 5G for drones and for robotics. And those rapidly becoming quite important use cases for 5G. And I think one of the areas that's particularly interesting around 5G is this shift towards millisecond latency. This idea that latency disappears, and for devices such as drones and robots, the idea that connectivity is starting to catch up the speed of light, that changes the paradigm of connectivity, and it drives more use cases. Other use cases that we hear talked about a lot are virtual reality, and I think that when we think about full virtual reality with devices such as the Oculus Rift, 4G is going to struggle to support virtual reality. So I think it may well be that VR has some sort of application here in 5G. And then we think about some of the verticals. So we think about connected cars, we think about connected healthcare. One of the other trends I think that has emerged is that it is extremely unlikely that 5G will be used to control the connected car. That's going to be done by the automotive manufacturers themselves. There's just too many risks for a car manufacturer to depend on a mobile network to control its core functions. But where we will see 5G playing a role is, for example, in the continuous updating of routes of maps in the car. So I think clearly the connected car is an attractive vertical. So let's move out beyond 5G. So platforms, and for the last several years, telecoms operators have wanted to become platforms. And this is a simple representation of a platform. And we all have our favorite platforms. We all talk about the likes of Uber. And we ask ourselves, what is a platform? Well, a platform is a business model where you're monetizing both the B2B provider and you're monetizing the consumer interaction. So typically, if it's someone like an Uber, it is making money on both sides of the business model, B2B and B2C. It's using digital tools and techniques such as APIs, such as big data analytics, in order to feed those two sides of the business model. So, when we think about future business models for operators around different verticals, a number of operators are looking at positioning themselves as platform providers. You already see a number of operators trying to build their own IoT platforms, where they're looking to provide that bridge between the providers of some of the technologies, the IT technologies, and the end user marketplaces. Do we know for sure that operators can fulfill this role as a platform? Well, I think it's going to be challenging. I think this move towards ecosystems and APIs and enable ecosystems is something which is new to the telco. Telcos have traditionally found it hard to move to more of a partnership model. I think that we talked about platforms in relation to services. I think it actually becomes a network paradigm as well. So in this shift towards putting the network into the cloud, operators have the potential to bring on board third-party applications providers, particularly in the enterprise market. So this platform model is an interesting one. It's where operators see their future. We have a lot of work to do yet to understand precisely whether the platform business models are going to work for the telco. So my last trend for 2017, and clearly I've only taken a selection of trends here, is around digital transformation. And the reason that I've had this here is because if there's one trend and commitment that telcos are making, it is to transform their business digitally. I think the challenge we have, however, and I've been to a number of operators and sat with employees across the organization, and the question always comes back is, what exactly is digital transformation? And of course, there's no single answer to this. It's about using different cloud-based technologies, different new digital tools such as APIs, DevOps, big data, using all these tools and essentially changing the fabric of the organization to make a telecoms operator more like an internet company. And I think when you compare a telco with a Facebook or Google or an Amazon, when we think about something such as big data, for example, big data sits at the very core of those digital companies' businesses. They couldn't exist without big data. The challenge for telcos is to take something like big data and to elevate that in its importance so it sits at the heart of the telco rather than sitting within an individual silo. When we think about digital transformation programs and what they are, for some operators, digital transformation just means IT transformation. It's an attempt to modernize, to update, to remove duplication, to remove legacy, typically in the BSS OSS. For other operators, it's a much bigger transformation. It's changing the whole DNA of their business. I think when we think about SDN and NFV, and for many operators, they'll use SDN and NFV as the starting point for a digital transformation. And clearly, with SDN and NFV, that's implications for the enterprise line of business, the BSS OSS, and the customer experience. So these are some findings from an Ovum survey in terms of what business benefits you hope to derive from digital transformation program. The change that we are seeing is that if you'd have asked this question, I think 3 years ago, there probably have been most people would have replied the most benefits are around cost. And I think the change now is people are more focused around agility. And by that I mean the ability to do things more quickly, more efficiently. They're more around automation, more around time to market. And clearly, reducing customer churn rate by better customer experience is also an important part of that. So in 2017, we're going to see those operators which haven't embarked on a digital transformation program yet attempting to do just that. And I think the success of the transformation will depend on the extent to which the company is committed at board level to transformation and a strong governance program is put in place for that transformation to work. So that is a very quick tour around some of the trends for 2017. I very much hope you found those useful. I haven't seen any questions come in yet. Please, if you do, then fire away. Otherwise, you can contact us on our website, telecomsacademy.com. The trends that I've been talking through with you today, they sit across the Telecoms Academy suite of training solutions. We'd love the chance to work with any of you again and to tackle some of these challenging issues. And the point that I will make here is that We started off talking about the telecoms business in 2016, the fact that revenues are flat across the business. I think the next 5 years are going to see some major changes in the technology that drives the telco business. And I think what's going to come out at the end could be quite different from where we are today. So I think it's a period, all of us, when we need to listen, to learn, and to take our future in our hands. I do think there's a chance here for telcos to change their business and to control their own destiny. So if we have no questions, I'd like to thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking with you and working with you very soon. Thank you. Goodbye.